Keyboard shortcuts in Excel. Frequently used shortcuts. This table lists the most frequently used shortcuts in Excel. To do this, press Close a workbook. Ctrl plus W. Open a workbook. Ctrl plus O. Go to the Home tab. Alt plus H. Save a workbook. Ctrl plus S. Copy selection. Ctrl plus C. Paste selection. Ctrl plus V. Undo recent action. Ctrl plus Z. Remove cell contents. Delete. Choose a fill color. Alt plus H. Cut selection. Ctrl plus X. Go to the Insert tab. Alt plus N. Apply bold formatting. Ctrl plus B. Center align cell contents. Alt plus H. C. Go to the Page Layout tab. Alt plus P. Go to the Data tab. Alt plus A. Go to the View tab. Alt plus W. Open the context menu. Shift plus F thus or. Windows menu key. Add borders. Alt plus H. B. Delete column. Alt plus H. D. C. Go to the Formula tab. Alt plus M. Hide the selected rows. Ctrl plus No. Hide the selected columns. Ctrl plus Shunya. To do this, press Move to the Tell Me or Search field on the ribbon and type a search term for assistance or help content. Alt plus Q. Then enter the search term. Open the File menu. Alt plus F. Open the Home tab and format text and numbers and use the Find tool. Alt plus H. Open the Insert tab and insert pivotables, charts, add-ins, sparklines, pictures, shapes, headers, or text boxes. Alt plus N. Open the Page Layout tab and work with themes, page setup, scale, and alignment. Alt plus P. Open the Formulas tab and insert, trace, and customize functions and calculations. Alt plus M. Open the Data tab and connect to Sort, Filter, Analyze, and work with data. Alt plus A. Open the Review tab and check spelling, add notes and threaded comments, and protect sheets and workbooks. Alt plus R. Open the View tab and preview page breaks and layouts, show and hide grid lines and headings, set zoom magnification, manage windows and panes, and view macros. Alt plus W. Work in the ribbon with the keyboard. To do this, press Select the Active tab on the ribbon and activate the access keys. Alt or F thus. To move to a different tab, use access keys or the arrow keys. Move the focus to commands on the ribbon or add-in pane. Tab key or Shift plus Tab. Move down, up, left, or right, respectively, among the items on the ribbon. Arrow keys. Show the tooltip for the ribbon element currently in focus. Ctrl plus Shift plus F thus. Activate a selected button. Spacebar or Enter. Open the list for a selected command. Down arrow key. Open the menu for a selected button. Alt plus down arrow key. When a menu or submenu is open, move to the next command. Down arrow key. Expand or collapse the ribbon. Ctrl plus F8. Open a context menu. Shift plus F thus. Or, on a Windows keyboard, the Windows menu key, usually between the Alt, GR and right control keys. Move to the submenu when a main menu is open or selected. Left arrow key. Move from one group of controls to another. Ctrl plus left or right arrow key. Keyboard shortcuts for navigating in cells. To do this, press Move to the previous cell in a worksheet or the previous option in a dialog box. Shift plus Tab. Move one cell up in a worksheet. Up arrow key. Move one cell down in a worksheet. Down arrow key. Move one cell left in a worksheet. Left arrow key. Move one cell right in a worksheet. Right arrow key. Move to the edge of the current data region in a worksheet. Ctrl plus arrow key. Enter the end mode, move to the next non-blink cell in the same column or row as the active cell, and turn off end mode. If the cells are blank, move to the last cell in the row or column. End arrow key. Move to the last cell on a worksheet, to the lowest used row of the rightmost used column. Control plus end. Extend the selection of cells to the last used cell on the worksheet, lower right corner. Control plus shift plus end. Move to the cell in the upper left corner of the window when scroll lock is turned on. Home plus scroll lock. Move to the beginning of a worksheet. Control plus home. Move one screen down in a worksheet. Page down. Move to the next sheet in a workbook. Control plus page down. Move one screen to the right in a worksheet. Alt plus page down. Move one screen up in a worksheet. Page up. Move one screen to the left in a worksheet. Alt plus page up. Move to the previous sheet in a workbook. Control plus page up. Move one cell to the right in a worksheet. Or, in a protected worksheet, move between unlocked cells. Tab key. Open the list of validation choices on a cell that has data validation option applied to it. Alt plus down arrow key. Cycle through floating shapes, such as text boxes or images. Control plus Alt plus punch, then the tab key repeatedly. Exit the floating shape navigation and return to the normal navigation. Escape. Scroll horizontally. Control plus shift, then scroll your mouse wheel up to go left, down to go right. Zoom in. Control plus Alt plus equal sign. Zoom out. Control plus Alt plus minus sign. Keyboard shortcuts for formatting cells. To do this, press. Open the Format Cells dialog box. Control plus A. Format fonts in the Format Cells dialog box. Control plus Shift plus F or Control plus Shift plus P. Edit the active cell and put the insertion point at the end of its contents. Or, if editing is turned off for the cell, move the insertion point into the formula bar. If editing a formula, toggle point mode off or on so you can use the arrow keys to create a reference. F2. Insert a note. Open and edit a cell note. Shift plus F2. Shift plus F2. Insert a threaded comment. Open and reply to a threaded comment. Control plus Shift plus F2. Control plus Shift plus F2. Open the Insert dialog box to insert blank cells. Control plus Shift plus plus sign. Plus. Open the Delete dialog box to delete selected cells. Control plus minus sign. Enter the current time. Control plus Shift plus colon happy smiley. Enter the current date. Control plus semicolon Aankh Marta smiley. Switch between displaying cell values or formulas in the worksheet. Control plus grave accent. Copy a formula from the cell above the active cell into the cell or the formula bar. Control plus apostrophe. Move the selected cells. Control plus X. Copy the selected cells. Control plus C. Paste content at the insertion point, replacing any selection. Control plus V. Open the Paste Special dialog box. Control plus Alt plus V. Italicize text or remove italic formatting. Control plus I or Control plus 3. Bold text or remove bold formatting. Control plus B or Control plus 2. Underline text or remove underline. Control plus U or Control plus 4. Apply or remove strike-through formatting. Control plus 5. Switch between hiding objects, displaying objects, and displaying placeholders for objects. Control plus 6. Apply an outline border to the selected cells. Control plus Shift plus ampersand sign. Remove the outline border from the selected cells. Control plus Shift plus underscore. Display or hide the outline symbols. Control plus Alt. Use the fill down command to copy the contents and format of the topmost cell of a selected range into the cells below. Control plus D. Apply the general number format. Control plus Shift plus tilde sign. Apply the currency format with two decimal places, negative numbers in parentheses. Control plus Shift plus $sign, dollar. Apply the percentage format with no decimal places. Control plus Shift plus percent sign, percent. Apply the scientific number format with two decimal places. Control plus Shift plus caret sign. Apply the date format with the day, month, and year. Control plus Shift plus number sign. Apply the time format with the hour and minute and AM or PM. Control plus Shift plus @ sign, @ Apply the number format with two decimal places, thousands separator and minus sign for negative values. Control plus Shift plus exclamation point. Open the Insert Hyperlink dialog box. Control plus K. Check spelling in the active worksheet or selected range. F7. Display the quick analysis options for selected cells that contain data. Control plus Q. Display the Create Table dialog box. Control plus L or Control plus T. Open the Workbook Statistics dialog box. Control plus Shift plus G. Keyboard shortcuts in the Paste Special dialog box in Excel. In Excel, you can paste a specific aspect of the copied data, like its formatting or value, using the Paste Special options. After you've copied the data, press Ctrl plus Alt plus V or Alt plus E plus S to open the Paste Special dialog box. Tip: you can also select Home Paste Special. To pick an option in the dialog box, press the underlined letter for that option. For example, press the letter C to pick the Comments option. To do this, press Paste all cell contents and formatting. A. Paste only the formulas as entered in the formula bar. F. Paste only the values, not the formulas. B. Paste only the copied formatting. T. Paste only comments and notes attached to the cell. C. Paste only the data validation settings from copied cells. N. Paste all cell contents and formatting from copied cells. H. Paste all cell contents without borders. X. Paste only column widths from copied cells. W. Paste only formulas and number formats from copied cells. R. Paste only the values, not formulas, and number formats from copied cells. U. Keyboard shortcuts for making selections and performing actions. To do this, press Select the entire worksheet. Ctrl plus A or Ctrl plus Shift plus spacebar. Select the current and next sheet in a workbook. Ctrl plus Shift plus page down. Select the current and previous sheet in a workbook. Ctrl plus Shift plus page up. Extend the selection of cells by one cell. Shift plus arrow key. Extend the selection of cells to the last non-blink cell in the same column or row as the active cell, or if the next cell is blank, to the next non-blink cell. Ctrl plus Shift plus arrow key. Turn Extend mode on and use the arrow keys to extend a selection. Press again to turn off. F8. Add a non-adjacent cell or range to a selection of cells by using the arrow keys. Shift plus F8. Start a new line in the same cell. Alt plus Enter. Fill the selected cell range with the current entry. Ctrl plus Enter. Complete a cell entry and select the cell above. Shift plus Enter. Select an entire column in a worksheet. Ctrl plus spacebar. Select an entire row in a worksheet. Shift plus spacebar. Select all objects on a worksheet when an object is selected. Ctrl plus Shift plus spacebar. Extend the selection of cells to the beginning of the worksheet. Ctrl plus Shift plus Home. Select the current region if the worksheet contains data. Press a second time to select the current region and its summary rows. Press a third time to select the entire worksheet. Ctrl plus A or Ctrl plus Shift plus spacebar. Select the current region around the active cell. Ctrl plus Shift plus asterisk sign. Select the first command on the menu when a menu or submenu is visible. Home. Repeat the last command or action, if possible. Control plus Y. Undo the last action. Control plus Z. Expand grouped rows or columns. While hovering over the collapsed items, press and hold the Shift key and scroll down. Collapse grouped rows or columns. While hovering over the expanded items, press and hold the Shift key and scroll up. Keyboard shortcuts for working with data, functions, and the formula bar. To do this, press Turn on or off tooltips for checking formulas directly in the formula bar or in the cell you're editing. Control plus Alt plus P. Edit the active cell and put the insertion point at the end of its contents. Or, if editing is turned off for the cell, move the insertion point into the formula bar. If editing a formula, toggle point mode off or on so you can use the arrow keys to create a reference. F2. Expand or collapse the formula bar. Control plus Shift plus U. Cancel an entry in the cell or formula bar. Escape. Complete an entry in the formula bar and select the cell below. Enter. Move the cursor to the end of the text when in the formula bar. Control plus End. Select all text in the formula bar from the cursor position to the end. Control plus Shift plus End. Calculate all worksheets in all open workbooks. F0. Calculate the active worksheet. Shift plus F0. Calculate all worksheets in all open workbooks, regardless of whether they have changed since the last calculation. Control plus Alt plus F0. Check dependent formulas, and then calculate all cells in all open workbooks, including cells not marked as needing to be calculated. Control plus Alt plus Shift plus F0. Display the menu or message for an error checking button. Alt plus Shift plus F thus. Display the function arguments dialog box when the insertion point is to the right of a function name in a formula. Control plus A. Insert argument names and parentheses when the insertion point is to the right of a function name in a formula. Control plus Shift plus A. Insert the AutoSum formula. Alt plus equal sign. Invoke flash fill to automatically recognize patterns in adjacent columns and fill the current column. Control plus E. Cycle through all combinations of absolute and relative references in a formula if a cell reference or range is selected. F-char. Insert a function. Shift plus F3. Copy the value from the cell above the active cell into the cell or the formula bar. Control plus Shift plus straight quotation mark. Create an embedded chart of the data in the current range. Alt plus F8. Create a chart of the data in the current range in a separate chart sheet. F11. Define a name to use in references. Alt plus M, D. Paste a name from the Paste Name dialog box if names have been defined in the workbook. F13. Move to the first field in the next record of a data form. Enter. Create, run, edit, or delete a macro. Alt plus F8. Open the Microsoft Visual Basic for Applications Editor. Alt plus F11. Open the Power Query Editor. Alt plus F12. Keyboard shortcuts for refreshing external data. Use the following keys to refresh data from external data sources. To do this, press Stop a refresh operation. Escape. Refresh data in the current worksheet. Control plus F5. Refresh all data in the workbook. Control plus Alt plus F5. Power Pivot keyboard shortcuts. Use the following keyboard shortcuts with Power Pivot in Microsoft 365 and Office. To do this, press Open the context menu for the selected cell, column, or row. Shift plus F thus. Select the entire table. Control plus A. Copy selected data. Control plus C. Delete the table. Control plus D. Move the table. Control plus M. Rename the table. Control plus R. Save the file. Control plus S. Redo the last action. Control plus Y. Undo the last action. Control plus Z. Select the current column. Control plus spacebar. Select the current row. Shift plus spacebar. Select all cells from the current location to the last cell of the column. Shift plus page down. Select all cells from the current location to the first cell of the column. Shift plus page up. Select all cells from the current location to the last cell of the row. Shift plus end. Select all cells from the current location to the first cell of the row. Shift plus home. Move to the previous table. Control plus page up. Move to the next table. Control plus page down. Move to the first cell in the upper left corner of selected table. Control plus home. Move to the last cell in the lower right corner of selected table. Control plus end. Move to the first cell of the selected row. Control plus left arrow key. Move to the last cell of the selected row. Control plus right arrow key. Move to the first cell of the selected column. Control plus up arrow key. Move to the last cell of selected column. Control plus down arrow key. Close a dialog box or cancel a process, such as a paste operation. Control plus escape. Open the autofilter menu dialog box. Alt plus down arrow key. Open the Go To dialog box. F5. Recalculate all formulas in the Power Pivot window. For more information, see Recalculate formulas in Power Pivot. F9. Function keys. Key. Description. F8. F1 alone displays the Excel help task pane. Control plus F8 displays or hides the ribbon. Alt plus F8 creates an embedded chart of the data in the current range. Alt plus Shift plus F8 inserts a new worksheet. Control plus Shift plus F8 toggles full screen mode. F2. F2 alone edit the active cell and put the insertion point at the end of its contents. Or, if editing is turned off for the cell, move the insertion point into the formula bar. If editing a formula, toggle point mode off or on so you can use the arrow keys to create a reference. Shift plus F2 adds or edits a cell note. Control plus F2 edit the active cell in the formula bar. If already editing the active cell, shift focus between formula and in cell editor. F3. F3 alone displays the paste name dialog box, available only if names have been defined in the workbook. Shift plus F3 displays the insert function dialog box. F4. F4 alone repeats the last command or action, if possible. When a cell reference or range is selected in a formula, F4 cycles through all the various combinations of absolute and relative references. Control plus F4 closes the selected workbook window. Alt plus F4 closes Excel. F5. F5 alone displays the Go To dialog box. Control plus F5 restores the window size of the selected workbook window. F6. F6 alone switches between the worksheet, ribbon, task pane, and zoom controls. In a worksheet that has been split, F6 includes the split panes when switching between panes and the ribbon area. Shift plus F6 switches between the worksheet, zoom controls, task pane, and ribbon. Control plus F6 switches between two Excel windows. Control plus Shift plus F6 switches between all Excel windows. F7. F7 alone opens the spelling dialog box to check spelling in the active worksheet or selected range. Control plus F7 performs the move command on the workbook window when it is not maximized. Use the arrow keys to move the window, and when finished press enter or escape to cancel. F8. F8 alone turns extend mode on or off. In extend mode, extended selection appears in the status line and the arrow keys extend the selection. Shift plus F8 enables you to add a non-adjacent cell or range to a selection of cells by using the arrow keys. Control plus F8 performs the size command when a workbook is not maximized. Alt plus F Art displays the macro dialog box to create, run, edit, or delete a macro. F9, F9 alone calculates all worksheets in all open workbooks. Shift plus F9 calculates the active worksheet. Control plus Alt plus F9 calculates all worksheets in all open workbooks, regardless of whether they have changed since the last calculation. Control plus Alt plus Shift plus F9 rechecks dependent formulas and then calculates all cells in all open workbooks, including cells not marked as needing to be calculated. Control plus F9 minimizes a workbook window to an icon. Thus, F10 alone turns key tips on or off. Pressing Alt does the same thing. Shift plus F thus displays the context menu for a selected item. Alt plus Shift plus F thus displays the menu or message for an error checking button. Control plus F thus maximizes or restores the selected workbook window. F11. F11 alone creates a chart of the data in the current range in a separate chart sheet. Shift plus F11 inserts a new worksheet. Alt plus F11 opens the Microsoft Visual Basic for Applications editor, in which you can create a macro by using Visual Basic for Applications VBA. F12. F12 alone displays the save as dialog box. Other useful shortcut keys. Key description. Alt displays the key tips, new shortcuts on the ribbon. For example, Alt W P switches the worksheet to page layout view. Alt W L switches the worksheet to normal view. Alt W I switches the worksheet to page break preview view. Arrow keys move one cell up, down, left, or right in a worksheet. Control plus arrow key moves to the edge of the current data region in a worksheet. Shift plus arrow key extends the selection of cells by one cell. Control plus Shift plus arrow key extends the selection of cells to the last non-blink cell in the same column or row as the active cell. Or if the next cell is blank, extends the selection to the next non-blink cell. Left or right arrow key selects the tab to the left or right when the ribbon is selected. When a submenu is open or selected, these arrow keys switch between the main menu and the submenu. When a ribbon tab is selected, these keys navigate the tab buttons. Down or up arrow key selects the next or previous command when a menu or submenu is open. When a ribbon tab is selected, these keys navigate up or down the tab group. In a dialog box, arrow keys move between options in an open drop-down list or between options in a group of options. Down or Alt plus down arrow key opens a selected drop-down list. Backspace deletes one character to the left in the formula bar, clears the content of the active cell. In cell editing mode, it deletes the character to the left of the insertion point. Delete removes the cell contents, data, and formulas from selected cells without affecting cell formats, threaded comments, or notes. In cell editing mode, it deletes the character to the right of the insertion point. End turns end mode on or off. In end mode, you can press an arrow key to move to the next non-blink cell in the same column or row as the active cell. End mode turns off automatically after pressing the arrow key. Make sure to press end again before pressing the next arrow key. End mode is shown in the status bar when it is on. If the cells are blank, pressing end followed by an arrow key moves to the last cell in the row or column. End also selects the last command on the menu when a menu or submenu is visible. Control plus end moves to the last cell on a worksheet, to the lowest used row of the rightmost used column. If the cursor is in the formula bar, Control plus end moves the cursor to the end of the text. Control plus Shift plus end extends the selection of cells to the last used cell on the worksheet, lower right corner. If the cursor is in the formula bar, Control plus Shift plus End selects all text in the formula bar from the cursor position to the end. This does not affect the height of the formula bar. Enter completes a cell entry from the cell or the formula bar and selects the cell below by default. In a data form, it moves to the first field in the next record. Opens a selected menu, press F10 to activate the menu bar, or performs the action for a selected command. In a dialog box, it performs the action for the default command button in the dialog box, the button with the bold outline, often the OK button. Alt plus Enter starts a new line in the same cell. Control plus Enter fills the selected cell range with the current entry. Shift plus Enter completes a cell entry and selects the cell above. Escape cancels an entry in the cell or formula bar. Closes an open menu or submenu, dialog box, or message window. Home moves to the beginning of a row in a worksheet. Moves to the cell in the upper left corner of the window when scroll lock is turned on. Selects the first command on the menu when a menu or submenu is visible. Control plus Home moves to the beginning of a worksheet. Control plus Shift plus Home extends the selection of cells to the beginning of the worksheet. Page down moves one screen down in a worksheet. Alt plus Page down moves one screen to the right in a worksheet. Control plus Page down moves to the next sheet in a workbook. Control plus Shift plus Page down selects the current and next sheet in a workbook. Page up moves one screen up in a worksheet. Alt plus Page up moves one screen to the left in a worksheet. Control plus Page up moves to the previous sheet in a workbook. Control plus Shift plus Page up selects the current and previous sheet in a workbook. Shift. Hold the Shift key while you drag a selected row, column, or selected cells to move the selected cells and drop to insert them in a new location. Spacebar. In a dialog box, performs the action for the selected button or selects or clears a checkbox. Control plus Spacebar selects an entire column in a worksheet. Shift plus Spacebar selects an entire row in a worksheet. Control plus Shift plus Spacebar selects the entire worksheet. If the worksheet contains data, Control plus Shift plus Spacebar selects the current region. Pressing Control plus Shift plus Spacebar a second time selects the current region and its summary rows. Pressing Control plus Shift plus Spacebar a third time selects the entire worksheet. When an object is selected, Control plus Shift plus Spacebar selects all objects on a worksheet. Alt plus Spacebar displays the control menu for the Excel window. Tab key moves one cell to the right in a worksheet. Moves between unlocked cells in a protected worksheet. Moves to the next option or option group in a dialog box. Shift plus Tab moves to the previous cell in a worksheet or the previous option in a dialog box. Control plus Tab switches to the next tab in a dialog box, or if no dialog box is open, switches between two Excel windows. Control plus Shift plus Tab switches to the previous tab in a dialog box, or if no dialog box is open, switches between all Excel windows. If you found this video helpful, please like, share,